Hey, everybody, welcome to a special edition of Doug Defense, the show where a real lawyer talks about fake stuff. I'm Billy Business, Mr. Doug Ridley right here.
Here I am.
We promised you, after Wicked for Good came out, that we would follow up our Wicked discussion. So here we are.
Here we are.
Yeah, we're going to talk.
In a clock tick, we're right back on it.
By the way, so the movie starts and it's like a narration of Morrible, and she's like, there have been 12 tides of the... I was like,
Yeah.
12 years? That's a big gap. And then I read it's 12 months.
Oh.
And it seems like a lot less happened in a small, like, I was like, oh, you guys, like, a lot changed in 12 months, but I'm just like, wow, 12 years. I thought, I was like, okay, that makes sense.
She built a treehouse and Glinda got one new dress.
Yeah. And
That's pretty much it.
everyone graduated, apparently.
Apparently.
Yeah. And just went straight into government.
Right.
We'll get into
Which is what you do.
Yeah, we'll get into all that. But if you haven't checked out our original discussion on the first Wicked, go ahead and maybe watch that first, because we are going to pick up some threads that we talked about in that episode. If you're like, wait, you didn't talk about this, you didn't talk about that. We probably did mention it in the first episode that we did about Wicked. This one's just kind of a follow-up. There were some things where we said, I'm not sure, we're going to have to see Wicked for Good, and then we can have an opinion.
Yeah.
So we do have some updates on some of the conversations.
Yes,
that we had.
and I made a mistake.
We did.
I can admit that.
Yes.
I am not perfectified.
Oh no,
The Aussians got to come back.
If I'm a Doug Ridley client, I'm a little worried if you're saying. Yeah, we did talk about the cameos in the first Wicked.
Yeah, completely got that wrong.
I mean,
sorry, Jonathan Groff, and sorry, Michael Rose.
Even now, we've had all the time in the world to fix
Oh,
this.
hold on.
We'll get this right.
Hold on. Oh no, I was totally right. Michael McCory Rose, but yes.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
So thank you, Professor, I'm assuming, of Smart Things. That was the username that pointed it out.
Yes.
In the nicest actually I've ever received in my life.
That is. Every once in a while we get some not as nice actuallys.
Yeah.
And I respond not as nice, but actually.
But Professor of Smart Things,
Yeah.
they watch every week, they comment every week. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
We absolutely adore you, and we hope that you like this conversation too.
And formal apologies to Michael McCory Rose.
Yes.
For not giving him the props that he
for
so
not
deserved.
giving him his roses.
But but it is a compliment that I mixed you up with Jonathan Groff because he's amazing.
That's amazing company.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get to the things that we're following up on. One of the first things, and I think we even put out a YouTube short about it, was our discussion about the mysterious man.
Yes,
who,
yes.
as you told us, the subtitles already told us was the
Yes,
wizard.
yes.
And they did this de-aging thing in the new one where
Yeah.
they're like, oh my God. And we're like, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. That was not a surprise to anyone but Elphaba and Glinda and
himself,
the wizard.
We had talked about it in the first episode. We didn't know what that elixir was. Could this have potentially been like a very dark kind of like he drugged this woman or whatever? We find out in this movie it really is just alcohol.
It's just liquid courage is all that it is. Now, the one thing that you and I didn't do is like go in and read the source material.
Sure.
So
right.
I'm going to invite our huge Wicked fans, the ones that read the book. Maybe it's explained in the book, and because we didn't get from the movie an explanation for why she was greenified. Right?
No.
I mean, what about this? I
mean,
it's like Midori, but like
it's
back
like a weird birth defect of alcohol. It's actually kind of like, if you think about it too hard, you're like, this is weird. I don't like it.
Yeah.
But that's all it is, because he does get trapped in the cage, and he offers some alcohol to Glinda when he's just like, hey, if you're just bummed out, this is
I
kinda
wonder
what
if Glinda ever has a baby, if her baby will now be green.
I hope not, because that means some really awful stuff has been happening at Oz. So yeah, I think we can put that one to bed.
Yeah.
Was it consensual? Probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, I think so.
We don't know how much they drank or what the alcohol proof is of this thing, but
Right.
I think we could just let that one go. But I was glad they at least followed up on that.
Me too.
So one thing that we didn't talk about in the first one, and our producer Linda told us afterwards, like, you guys didn't mention this. I'm like, but that's okay because it came back up this time.
It did.
Was in the first Wicked movie, Fiyero and Elphaba rescue this lion cub from a little cage, and they set it free into the forest. Now, in this movie, we learn that cub grew up to become the Cowardly Lion. And there's a scene where Bach, who has been turned into the Tin Man, which we are going to talk about, he kind of says, like, because Elphaba kidnapped this cub, he was never able to learn how to stand on his own feet. And it was kind of a weird rationale.
It really is. And I never really liked Bach anyway. And Bach is turning into, I mean, I knew that Bach was going to turn into Tin Man, but yeah, it's not kidnapping. It was a rescue. Like, the cub was in a cage to deprive it of sentience. We talked about that a little bit too.
Yes, but then, wait. If we're saying then that animals have sentience, then we have to treat them with, we do treat them with the same rights in Oz as people, because the whole point of this movie is that the wizard is trying to deny them rights.
Right. Correct.
So by birth, that lion had the same rights as anyone else. So it is kidnapping, wouldn't it?
No, because it was kidnapped and placed into a cage. So whatever, interim professor brought the cub into the cage,
right,
that's the person that's responsible for kidnapping. That's the person who's responsible for false imprisonment on top of the kidnapping. And then the whole purpose behind it was not to limit its freedom, limit its freedom of movement.
Right.
The whole purpose behind it was to shut it up, to make it so bad that it forgot how to speak, lost sentience. So, and we talked in our first episode about, like, if you're trying to deprive someone of sentience, is that murder? What is it? And
right,
and all of those things. So no, Bach's just wrong. Just straight out just wrong.
So I guess, like, if someone was walking down the street and they saw a kidnapped kid in the back of a car,
right,
and they let that kid go,
right,
no crime.
No, I mean, imagine, right? We're walking down the street. We see a cage with a baby in it in the back of a pickup truck. We take baby out. We bring it to the police station and say, or hospital, and say, baby.
Yeah, but they're not taking that cub to.
It's the equivalent of hospital or police, right? Because it's putting it back into its natural environment, back in the forest. That's what I would be arguing anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, that definitely did come up, and I agree. Bach is kind of a little weenie in this.
Well, and then like the whole thing behind Bach is that he had this thing for Glinda,
right? And
then changed his mind and had a thing for Nessa until he didn't.
It was like I'll be into you to impress this other girl. The logic was kind of weird.
Yeah, Bach is bad.
Let's talk about Nessa real quick, because that was one of the things that did come up, and I did ask you about this. Apparently, and hopefully I'm not wrong, Wicked fans, Professor Smart Things, you can tell me.
Yeah.
But apparently something that they added to the movie that was not in the show. I don't know about the books. The books are so wildly different, by the way, I guess, than the show that whatever. But one thing that they added was, Nessa takes over as governor of Munchkinland once her dad dies. Let's assume it was an election, because I don't think you can just inherit the title of governor.
No, you can't just inherit.
But let's just assume that people were like, oh, your dad was great. I'm sure you'll be great too.
Yeah, sure.
To keep Bach from leaving, she changes the law that animals and munchkins cannot leave Munchkinland without express written permission of the governor. Now, I want to ask you, I don't really know, what powers does a governor have? We're in California. Could Newsom be like, you cannot leave California without my permission?
No. Anybody who tried to do that here would have to be drastically changing the laws, and we've talked before about how we both are a little concerned about the state of the country we live in right now. Right. And freedom of movement is something that we've taken for granted for a long time. I think that this is rattling. It's meant to be rattling. I think that, interstate access and travel is something that we just assume we can get in the car and drive to Vegas.
Yeah.
We just assume we can hop on a train and go to wherever we're going to go.
Sure.
I think it's intentionally meant to be rattling, and no, hopefully we're not going to revisit this in 2 or 4 years or 6 years and say, oh, remember that time that we just thought it was fine to
just go
to Vegas wherever
right.
we wanted, or whatever. So no, there's not legal precedent for it here.
Yeah, Nessa's character, I don't know what they wanted us to think, but I'm like, I don't blame you. You were gaslit this entire time into becoming a crazy by evil Bach. I don't like you, Bach.
No, I don't like Bach at all. And
I don't think you ever had a heart, Bach.
She was Bachified.
Yeah.
But, and then at that point, she's exercising whatever power she has to exercise some layer of control over what is the most important thing in her life, which is that relationship.
I mean, she's got abandonment issues, right?
Yeah.
She's upset with Elphaba because Elphaba left. Mm-hmm. Bach is someone that told her she was the most beautiful thing in the world and loved her. And
right.
Now, I'm not justifying what she does. I'm just saying I can understand why someone would be driven to that point.
Yeah, and then you layer on top of that, we know what her upbringing was, right? So she's wheelchair bound. Her father was super overprotective. Her father told Elphaba to go make sure that she was okay. I mean, that was the only reason why Elphaba even was at his university is because dad said go make sure that she can get to her room okay. So she had that sheltered, pampered, you are my princess life, then was abandoned by Elphaba, then was absolutely just completely indefensibly screwed over by Bach, who and let's just point out, like, the reason why his last straw, he had stayed with her for all that time, was, oh, Glinda's about to get married. I got to go screw that up too.
Right. But then, like,
kind of like Jake in Freaky Friday going and messing up Mom's wedding.
Here we go again.
I know.
The other thing too is like, and I stay out of any sort of like ableist type thing because I'm certainly not the authority to speak on it. But it was kind of strange that it's like, oh, you're not in your wheelchair anymore. You must be fine. I can go now, right? Like, like, no, kid.
Yeah. He's so bad.
Like, have some tact. I get that you're kind of imprisoned there, but for God's sakes, did you think that was a good line? Like, oh, you're happy now. Can I please leave?
And then anytime he opened that rusty mouth of his moving forward for the rest of the show, just like, you just need to be quiet. Yeah.
So let's talk about how he becomes the Tin Man, because that was one of the things where I'm like, okay, there might be some real world equivalency here. So Elphaba comes to see her sister, and that's when, she does a magic spell. By the way, every time Elphaba uses the Grimoire, she's like, I don't know what's going to happen. And I'm just like, dude.
At some point, stop using the Grimoire.
Yeah, we literally just saw your biggest oopsie with the monkey wings. Like, maybe just read it first in your head, like silent read it before you say it out loud.
I was like inside voice.
Okay, so she does a spell that lets her sister float.
Right.
Which is great. Sure.
Right.
Not sure the long term what that's going to do for her, but she seems happy enough.
Yeah. And the ruby slippers are only ruby because they're burning hot.
Elphaba, you're burning my feet.
But at least I'm floating. I guess I'm going to be okay.
So then Bach comes in. He's like, oh, well, if you're cool now, I want to leave. And Nessa tries to read the Grimoire to do a spell to keep him. But it shrinks his heart, and Elphaba tries anything she can to save him, right? And she does a spell that turns him into the Tin Man that we know from The Wizard of Oz, because she needed to find a form, I guess, where he wouldn't need a heart to survive. Later on, kind of similar circumstances. Fiyero comes to her rescue, but is pulled away, and she's worried that he's going to be beaten to death for basically saving her life. So she goes back to the castle, and she does another spell that's like, I don't know how, but please do whatever you can, magic, to make sure that he doesn't get beaten to death and that he doesn't feel any pain. Right. So she does 2 spells basically to save their lives. Let's look at Tin Man first.
Yeah.
She mutilates his body, but to save his life.
Right.
What legally are you allowed to do in the name of saving someone's life? If someone, I know he did it to himself, so this is a bad example. But remember that movie and that real life story, 127 Hours, where he gets his arm stuck in the thing and he has to cut it off in order to get out? Imagine someone else was there with him, and they're like, I'm going to cut your arm off. It's going to be terrible, but you're going to die if you stay here, so I'm going to do it to get you out of here.
Right.
Is that what can you do?
No, and it's not a crime. And at some point, let's assume no consent for just a moment, right?
Sure.
Because we definitely get the sense that Bach is out of it and not.
He can't speak at a certain point.
Yeah. So he's in really bad shape.
Yeah.
So using the 127 hours movie as an example, let's assume unconscious on top of that, right? And like, I can't get this person free. The only way that I can do that is cutting off their arm or their hand or whatever, so that then I can tourniquet it up and get to a hospital, and that's the only way I can save their life. Nobody's going to get prosecuted for doing that, because they're going to have to. They have some explaining to do.
Sure,
they're definitely going to have to justify why they did what they did, and someone else is gonna look at that and question and second guess them. And well, couldn't you have maybe just cut off their hand or or something along those lines? And I think this is similar. Imagine for a second that Elphaba actually knew what the heck she was doing when she anytime she did the grubbery, right? So imagine, she's thinking, okay, I need a form. What if I turned him into this metal tin can, which is weird and without precedent, and there's no other tin men walking around. We don't even see like a tin anything in Oz.
It's like a big walking iron lung,
right?
Basically,
yeah. And so it almost makes sense. And then if we buy into the fact that no grimoire spell can be undone, so it's not like they could put his heart back. They can't undo the spell. I don't know. I can probably think of 10 other ways that a different spell could have had a different result. It just wouldn't have pushed the plot forward towards Dorothy.
I guess she just had to quickly be like, I have to do something where he does not need a heart to live.
And iron lung or something like that, ready, go.
Right.
And I think where Elphaba definitely by the end of all of this becomes more responsible is that she doesn't have a lock on the grimoire. She knows the grimoire always produces these unexpected results, and maybe knock it off with the grimoire as the answer to all of these things.
Chill a little bit on the grimoire.
Just stop, because at some point, going back to the legal analysis of it, at some point, if you are just reckless with any sort of a tool, if I'm reckless with a firearm and I'm not careful when I'm cleaning it, and a bullet goes into the street, I'm responsible for what happens to that bullet.
Yeah.
So, she can't keep recklessly using magic that she doesn't know how to control. So, at some point, someone would have held her responsible had she not walked into, wherever the sand
at that
place
point,
is.
that's like the, third or fourth time that she's used.
Well, yeah,
monkeys. Broomstick. Well, did she use it for the broomstick?
She used it for the broomstick.
Okay.
Which, again, we talked about this in our first episode. Monkeys were like, what the hell? You got a broom. We got our backs ripped open. Bach.
Well, her sister first, and then Bach.
Yeah, Burning Hot Shoes.
Right.
Tin Man, and you know,
And then
this
Scarecrow.
Scarecrow that looked strangely like Ryan Reynolds.
Okay, so let's talk about Fierro Scarecrow. Is now with Tin Man, Bach is right there, and he can't consent. Essentially, she's got to do it right then and there.
And it's like he is about to die.
He's about to die right then and there. Fierro, it's like, I don't know where he is. I can't see what's happening. I'm just going to do this as preventative, essentially. We don't know that maybe he would have been killed, but she doesn't know that.
Right.
Is that a different circumstance than maybe Bach?
I think it is a different circumstance. And this allows me to use a legal analysis. We talk all the time. We're not a review show.
Sure, right.
So this isn't an indictment of the plot line of Wicked.
Okay.
But this element of the plot drives me crazy. So from a legal analysis, not attacking Wicked in any way,
Sure.
Elphaba would have to answer for why a scarecrow? Why turn him into a burlap sack filled with hay?
She clearly doesn't know
Right.
that that's what she did, because she's startled initially when he opens the trap door at the end.
Right. And
I guess we should have said a long time ago, spoilers for Wicked for Good, but you're already here.
yeah, exactly. You wouldn't be watching it if you didn't know what was happening.
Yeah.
But you know, I mean, she was trying to stop him from being beat up, right?
No,
how about turn all of the attackers into bags of straw?
Okay, here's the thing. Because she says in that song and the thing, she doesn't want him to feel any pain, and she doesn't want him to ever die.
Right.
So turning her attackers into straw men wouldn't achieve those two things. He's still capable of pain and still capable of dying.
Yeah, but I'd rather be punched by a bag of hay than some dude's fist or cane or whatever.
Sure, but that's what I'm saying. Like, that's where the spell is almost irresponsible, because it's a be careful what you wish for thing, right? The only way to achieve that is to turn him into something that is no longer human.
And I think that if instead of Fierro being grateful and just a good guy about being turned into a bag of straw,
right,
was mad and was like, hey, I was just about to get away from these guys. Like, I got this covered, and you turned me into a bag of hay. And he was mad about it.
Yeah,
he definitely has a legal justification for suing her for negligence or assault or anything along those lines, because
we talk about mayhem. Would this be considered mayhem?
It's worse than that, right? I mean, it's changing,
get worse than mayhem?
Changing every cell of your entire body, right?
Is there even a crime for that?
No. Hayifying. She's hayifying gravity.
My client has been hayified.
He's been hayified, and we need justice. If the cow can eat it, you must defeat it, or something. I don't know. I just made that up. That's how brilliant I am. No, but I think, and especially since this is maybe one of the last phenomenons that she does.
Yes.
I think it's the most irresponsible. And if I'm mad about it, he's cool with it because he loves her and he's just cool with it. I wouldn't have been cool with it. And from a legal perspective, it was done without his permission. It definitely, I guess you could argue it made him better because he can't feel pain anymore.
He's like invincible now,
and
right?
maybe
Or
he's
immortal?
Immortal until the hay disintegrates. I don't know, but
never know.
You never
I mean,
hay.
Like if we take the 1939 Wizard of Oz,
Right.
I think you just got to grab some new one and just stuff it in there.
Right.
And you're fine.
And then here's the other thing that I question about this entire plan and why the legal fine of it is challenging is did she take his brain too? I mean, they don't address it. Maybe they address it in the book, but Dorothy's best friend, the Scarecrow,
Right.
wishes for a brain.
I don't think
Goes
so.
to Oz and wishes for a brain.
I don't think.
If I Only Had a Brain is
I don't
a
think
great
so.
song.
Because this movie makes Fiyero seem like opposite. Like,
Yeah.
he's got a grand plan. He's going to pretend to be friends with Dorothy so he can keep an eye on them.
Right.
Embed himself so that they don't actually kill her.
Right.
And then send a note that's like, hey, fake your death and then I'll come back for you.
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
But out of the four friends that we meet in Wizard of Oz,
Right.
The former prince who is a statesman who actually can sing and has beautiful things to say, probably would have been the leader. I mean, of the four of them, probably not the PTSD lion cub, probably not the jerky munchkin who broke the heart of the Wicked Witch of the East. Certainly not here's this girl again. I love that. That part.
I thought that was great.
She's like, oh, this girl. So I guess that's why he's so brilliant. But they never really addressed his brains. If they address his brains in the book, fans, friends at home, let us know if they address this in the
from
book.
what I understand, Fiyero in the book is not who turns out to be Scarecrow. That doesn't happen.
Then there we go.
Yeah.
So we're just left with a huge plot hole. But we're not a review show.
We're not a review show.
From a legal
Right,
perspective,
yes.
I'm wondering if she also took his brains.
And I'm going to say there's no evidence to. In fact, if I was against you in court for that,
Right.
I would lay down all the evidence of like, well, if someone doesn't have a brain, how did they come up with this amazing plot? You know,
That's true.
so that would be
And I mean, he doesn't arguably need a brain anymore because he can't hurt anymore. So not having a brain means he doesn't get headaches anymore.
You know what it sounds
He
like?
never needs an aspirin ever.
You know what it sounds like to me? They're hoping that the audience doesn't have a brain at that point so that you don't have to literally go in circles trying to think of what the answer is. So, let's talk about one of the big conversations that we had in the first episode. And I think the whole reason why we're like, we'll go see Wicked for Good and then we'll come back to it, which is Glinda. How involved is Glinda? Because in the first movie, we left it on that note of like, well, it's too early to tell how involved she is with everything. Let's go see Wicked for Good and then revisit this conversation. Now we're here, and this movie, I feel like, went out of its way to be like, Glinda is the third part of
No question
the
about it.
Wizard,
Yeah.
Marble, and Glinda
Yeah.
are all in this together.
Yep.
And whether she had good or bad intentions, it's kind of irrelevant.
Yeah, I mean, she definitely seems like a puppet. She definitely seems like they're setting her up. She's pretty and presents, and
She's a great face for Oz. Yeah.
bubble and and all of those things. And she is, and she's amazing, and she's cute, and she's perfect as Glinda. But yeah, I mean, there's only so many times that you can say, "Oh, I didn't really understand what was going on." That was my Glinda impression.
So that was very good.
Yeah, thanks.
So now let me ask you this again 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
Is she a co-conspirator at this point? If we're going to indict the Wizard and Morrible for all the animals that they've imprisoned, that we find out they imprisoned a lot
of them, yeah.
That all the fraud, the deception, any sort of slander against Elphaba, is she a co-conspirator? Is she equally charged? I mean, what would you do?
She'd be equally charged and equally liable. She'd be liable in a civil court if there were any lawsuits filed. She'd be equally liable criminally across the board. If I'm defending Glinda, I'm going to try to say she's not, her name doesn't rhyme with horrible. So, she's not as responsible
She's
as
not
that
Moffle.
person. Right. Exactly. Glawful.
She's gleeful.
And she, And, you know, and then you know, she's not the person that perpetrated the fraud on the entire land, like the wizard, you know, who is pretending to be able to read the grimoire.
We also don't know, it's never explicitly stated one way or another if she knew that all those animals were just hiding in cages behind the wall.
I didn't get the sense that she understood about the dungeon downstairs. But we've used this example before, but it's the similar argument about the getaway driver for an armed robbery gone wrong.
Right.
You know, the person who drives the car while two buddies go in and rob the 7-Eleven, and they have guns, and one of them gets scared and kills the cashier behind the counter. Even the getaway driver, even though he wasn't in on that, they're all responsible because they all agreed to commit this crime. Now, I think the challenge with Glinda still is, at this point, it looks like they've moved on from the storyline about the animals. Obviously, the animals are in the dungeon, but they've moved on from that. They're really all about trying to get back the grimoire. And so Glinda's involvement wouldn't necessarily be, let's say all those animals were kidnapped, before Glinda even got to Oz.
Right.
Well, that her involvement in the conspiracy doesn't start until she stays on the top of the tower and says goodbye to Elphaba. Right. Then she's staying. Now she's there. Now she's involved with it. So from a legal standpoint, she'd be responsible for what moved forward. And what moved forward was the witch hunt for Elphaba, trying to get back the grimoire, trying to get Elphaba back in the stable, back in line with the people in power. So I think it's all of everything from there forward.
But it's also not clear, like, if she knew, like, the slave labor that the animals are being forced to do to build that yellow brick road.
Right.
Which, again, I think was something they added just for the film, which I thought was really, I was like, okay, I like that they're showing what is the wizard really doing with these animals, which is he's just using them for his own vanity, which we've seen in history for thousands of years.
Yes. Let's build a road that connects everyone that is useless.
Right.
But you're right, and I think that she could be held responsible for the slavery of the animals, the workforce labor, those sorts of things, because if we're going to hold the wizard and Morrible responsible for that, Glinda's right in there with him, unfortunately. As much as I love her, she's responsible.
On that same token, she is indirectly, if not kind of directly, actually responsible for Nessa's death. So she's upset about Fiero running off with Elphaba, and they're like, how are we going to get Elphaba? And she says, start a rumor that her sister's in trouble, and Elphaba will show her face.
Right.
And Morrible says to the wizard, she's too smart for a rumor. We've got to actually do whatever we're going to do. She summons a tornado, which summons Dorothy's house to Oz, drops right on Nessa. She's dead.
Yeah.
So Glinda, forget about the animals, forget about everything, the slander, all that out the window. Just looking at this, the death of the Wicked Witch of the East, as she calls herself.
Yeah.
Was Glinda, I mean, it's kind of indirectly her plan, right?
It is. And I never thought that we would be drawing a parallel between Hunger Games Mockingjay Gale with his plan to double bomb the workers at or the emergency personnel at the Capitol, with Glinda's start of a plan that then ends up getting more serious and more out of control.
Right.
I think knowing Glinda and knowing how it was developed through the show, Glinda would have never been okay with this part of the plan.
Sure.
Let's summon a tornado. I don't even think Glinda's up for that much of it.
Right.
Much less, let's bring a house in from another land and drop it on Nessa and let's kill Nessa rather than
Now, wait a minute.
starting a rumor.
Now, wait. We had this discussion
We
before
did.
the show start.
We did. Let's do it.
If I'm defending Morrible,
Yes.
we don't know. We always say, like, if the movie was the evidence,
Yes.
if the movie was just CCTV and we're just watching as much as we can, it is never stated by her, let's kill Nessa, let's drop a house on her. Now, the tornado that she summons, for all they know, the plan could have been, let's make a natural disaster in Munchkin Land so that Elphaba comes and tries to make sure that Nessa's okay.
Right.
You're under the impression that it's straight up murder. She somehow summoned that house to drop right on Nessa. But I'm saying, I think at worst it's manslaughter for summoning the natural disaster. You can't prove that she knew, that Morrible knew that house was going to fall on Nessa and kill her.
Once we get our digital, because I don't know that I'm going to go back to the theater just to prove this point and be right about it.
I mean, you don't want to prove me wrong.
but
$20 worth to prove me wrong.
No, not really. I don't care that much about this part of this movie, but I think it's going to all come down to which one of us was eating some popcorn at that moment.
Okay.
Because I remember some sort of like a gesture or something from Morrible directing the house down.
Well, no, this is 2 1/4.
No. This I'm not talking about this.
Right.
I'm talking about. I remember something, and I admit that I could be wrong. I think that this entire thing hinges on my ability to freeze frame the CCTV footage that we would use at trial.
Okay.
If she, as the house is spinning, goes like that just that much. If I was prosecuting her, I would say, you see, she directed the house down.
And I would say that's nothing. You cannot prove intent based on that. That means nothing. Nothing. That could be a cramp in the wrist from summoning tornadoes.
This is why you're not a lawyer, because the jury
I would
laugh
beat
at
you
you
every time.
Because the jury would laugh at you for that.
You
would not. I think that if we have the house spinning and she goes and she has all control over the weather, enough to lift a house from another land, and has that much control to put the tornado right above Nessa. She put the tornado right above Nessa. That wasn't an accident.
You are assuming so much. You're assuming that she has full control of this tornado, but there's nothing there that shows me that she could do anything other than conjure it.
So you're going to argue in front of our fake jury that it was just a coincidence that what she set out to do to damage Nessa just happened to accidentally drop a house on her body and kill her.
What I'm going to argue is, yes, my client did summon a tornado to cause damage. I'm not going to refute that. I'm not even going to try. What I am going to push back on is that the intent was to pull a house from another dimension to drop on this person. Was that an unfortunate side effect? Yes, I would say it's the same as like trying to intimidate someone and an accident happens and the gun went off. Did you murder the person? It was manslaughter. You shouldn't, like, you never went in there with the intention to kill them. You just went in with the intention to scare them, and it was an accident. That would be how I would argue it, because there's no reasonable doubt, right? You cannot prove to me
Teach me.
You cannot
Professor
prove,
Billy.
You cannot prove to me that specific house. Why would you do that? Of all the powers, why wouldn't you just have a spell that would have her have, like, I don't know, diarrhea till she exploded? Like, why would you go through
that is a shitty example. and now it is worth $20 for me to go in. I'm going to rewatch it. And then when we get it on digital, which
Right.
probably won't be that much longer. Movies are coming out on digital faster and faster these days. I'm going to freeze frame, and I'm going to show you how I would prove
I'm
it.
just saying
Now, at the end of the day, this is called Doug Defends,
Sure.
and generally my role is to defend.
Right.
I'm just saying, just objectively, if I have to evaluate this evidence, I think that the old Doug with hair prosecutor
Right.
could have convicted her of
And I'm just
intentional
saying,
murder.
I think.
Your arguments are absolutely
By the way,
right arguments.
I 100% as Billy the person think, of course that was her plan. I'm just saying, if I'm putting my lawyer hat on, since we have the same education, is that I don't think you could prove 100% that was the intent of that.
The argument is exactly the argument that a good defense attorney like you would make, and I support it. I think really at the end of the day, it's a matter of freeze framing. And if what I'm remembering didn't happen, then we've got a great argument for reckless disregard and manslaughter and whatever. If I've got a gesture, then I think that shows an intent. And I know prosecutors who would move forward on those charges, even if it meant losing, for the principle of the thing.
You know who I feel really bad for right now? Is those viewers that are watching right now that call Ridley legal and find out that I can't defend them in court.
I can't drop houses on people with tornadoes.
No, they're going to be like,
get away with it.
can I get Billy business on my case? And you're
Yeah.
like, oh, sorry.
Yeah, no. I know. It's a good thing that Ridley Defense bankrolls the show. Thank you for sponsoring Ridley Defense.
Okay, so Glinda probably at least she's gonna get some sort. It just seems like she just takes over Oz at the end, and she's like, "You're going to jail, Morrible." I'm like, hold on, Glinda.
Yeah,
You know?
I loved the Glinda takeover at the end.
Yeah.
Like, you are exiling yourself. You are going to get flown off to God knows where by monkeys, and I am assuming control over Oz. I thought all of that was really cool. So I liked the political power grab takeover, and that all rang true to me.
I mean, it might have just been this
too.
whole thing might have just been a very long game for Glinda, right?
Oh, from the very beginning,
From the very
she was just
beginning.
looking to control Oz.
Yeah, and she got it. She got there.
She's the wicked one.
Maybe.
Oh, but again, not a review show. Act 2 of this musical,
Sure.
right? Because it's not that different than what we would have seen on Broadway. I don't enjoy it as much because it all becomes about Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
I loved and was so inspired by the first part of this, and the unlimited and the defying gravity and how this ends, and it ends how part 1 ends, how act 1 ends, and it's so powerful and so great. And then we don't really get to see Elphaba do unlimited things in part 2.
We do get to see her kidnap someone.
We get to see her kidnap someone. We get to see her turn somebody into a annoying tin man and turn her boyfriend into hay.
So she does do,
because she was making hay with the cardigan sweater.
I'm telling you,
Victoria's Secret has a new cardigan line.
I saw this movie with my daughter, and I was just like, I totally was like, I didn't even look to see what this movie is rated. I really don't know.
Like, this is
I was like,
this is getting interesting.
I was like, this is the longest song of my life.
I'm seeing a lot of green. I'm seeing more green. Oh, that's okay. The cardigan's back on. It's all fine.
So, yeah, I mean, we didn't talk about the kidnapping because it's like, yeah, that's just a straight up.
Right.
There's no interpretation of like you threw a teenage girl in your basement. That was wrong.
Yeah, shouldn't have done that.
I mean, even though. Well, we've talked about this before. I can't remember what episode it was, but it was like we had been like, you can't steal your own stuff, like OJ. Remember,
Yeah.
because she's like, you're gonna give me back those shoes because those don't belong to you,
Right.
But you can't kidnap
Because you
somebody
killed
like
my sister and then you stole her shoes, you little brat.
Isn't it?
This girl again.
She's like, I'm gonna be wicked for reals, and then she's like, for 90 seconds. And
90
she's like,
seconds.
Nah, never mind.
Wicked for good, wicked for 90.
Yeah, wicked. Wicked for a tick.
Yeah.
You know? A tick of the
A
clock.
tick of the clock.
Like I actually really enjoyed the movie. I think this is kind of a great one long movie.
Yeah.
I think it's a fun story. But yeah, I'm glad that I was curious going into this. I was like, will this movie clear up some of the questions I had from the first one?
Yep.
It seemed like it did.
Yep.
We had some new legal fun things to talk about, and now we can put. Well, I was gonna say we could put Wicked to bed at this point, but this movie opened huge, and now they're like Wicked 3. So I don't think we've seen the end of Wicked for good.
Probably not.
I think we're just getting started.
And you know, we matched today, and my daughter Gabby is our artist, and we talk about Gabby from time to time. But you know, one thing we don't talk about, you can buy these shirts.
Oh, you should.
If you go to our link tree, there is a merch store, and every one of the drawings that you've seen us use and that you see in the credits and all of those things is available on almost every bit of merchandise you can possibly imagine. It's like Spaceballs level of merchandise that we have. You can buy a throw pillow with this on it if you'd really like.
Mugs,
exactly.
Tote bags,
anything you want.
I mean, I can't imagine anything better as a kid on Christmas than opening my stocking and seeing this shirt in there.
Can you imagine some kid opening it up, gifts for the holidays, and they just start crying? They're like, I wanted a real Wicked shirt. You got me Doug and Billy.
I mean, my kids will love it.
Well, we'll make sure that happens then.
Well, our gift to you was this special bonus episode. We hope that you guys had a good time with Wicked and Wicked for Good, and I'm sure there's going to be Wicked 3s, 4s, 5s coming. And you know what, Doug? You and I will be here to talk about them when they happen.
In a clock tick.
All right. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening, and we'll see you guys next time.
I'm off to see the wizard.